Okay, so I'm getting ready to change oil in this tractor for the first time. This is the break-in oil. They don't recommend changing oil in this tractor till either 500 or 600 hours. They actually don't even recommend changing out the break-in oil. But I always change the oil on my tractors at 50 hours when they're new. I did go over 50 hours on this one because it doesn't say that you have to change the oil. Most of my New Holland tractors in the manual wants you to change it, just the oil at 50 hours. But this tractor's got 139 hours on it. You can see that at the bottom there. I've been letting the tractor run for a few minutes to get the oil warm. I'm going to put it on this lift right here in front of me and see if it'll pick its tractor up. That lift's supposed to pick up 11,500 pounds, I think. So it should pick this tractor up. We're getting ready to find out. I bet.
We was down at the beach and it come big storm of lightning and shit. Carolyn went running in the house. Me and Terry sitting on the porch. Well, that's pretty good. Pretty damn nice.
But y'all don't say nothing about it. Y'all don't supposed to know we got it.
Alright, so I got my oil drained out. There's 2 drain plugs on this tractor, just like the New Holland tractors that I'm used to. So, I got to make sure they got sealing washers on. That one stayed on and that one didn't. So I got to make sure I get the right well, I guess that sealing washer must have fell off. It did. Right here it is. We got to put that back on, one of them, and put the drain plugs back in. And then I got to change the oil filter, which is up here on the side of the engine. You can actually see it right there. But it's easier to get to from the top, so I'll let the tractor back down and I'll get the oil filter off. I'm just changing oil. I'm not changing the fuel filters and all that stuff. Just changing the engine oil right now. The hydraulic oil don't have to be changed for 1,500 hours, I believe it is, and the hydraulic filter don't have to be changed to like 500 hours or 1,000. I can't remember. I'll have to look in the book again. I think it's got 2 big fuel filters on it, but I'm not going to change them yet. So just the oil filters over here. Take a look at it. There's the oil filter, part number. So I'll be sticking it on here in a minute. Alright, well here's the oil filter, and I still got the tractor on the lift and I'm kind of underneath it. Let's see here, I gotta go the other way because it's facing away from me, so I gotta go that way. And it's tight. There we go. There we go. We got the new filter over here ready to go back. Got oil on the gasket already. You gotta make sure the old gasket come off with the old filter, and it did. Make sure the new gasket don't fall off. There we go. Now I normally just tighten these as tight as I can get them by hand, but I can't really get my hand on this one good to tighten it. So I'm going to put the wrench on it and give it about a half a round. Till it feels snug. That's starting to feel about right to me. Alright. Now all I like is putting oil back in it. Alright, so all I like is putting oil back in it, but while I was under here, I thought I'd give you a tour of the bottom side of a Massey Ferguson 4710, because there's one strange thing about these tractors, and that is that the muffler's right here. Alright, I'm going to stop right here for a second. I keep calling this thing under the tractor a muffler, but there's actually a whole lot more to it than that. It's a diesel oxidation catalyst, and it's basically where the emissions take place. The emissions control on this tractor take place. It's where the DEF, or the diesel exhaust fluid, is injected into the exhaust to reduce NOx gases. And if you don't know what diesel exhaust fluid is, it is required now on all newer diesel engines that are over 75 horsepower, I believe. And it is used to reduce a poisonous gas that is emitted by a diesel engine. So it has like a chemical reaction with this NOx gas and causes it to turn to basically water vapor, the way I understand it anyway. I'm sure I'm not telling you 100% correct, because I haven't done a lot of research on it, but just from what I've heard and from dealers and stuff like that. But it's basically any tractor you find nowadays has got diesel exhaust fluid. Pickups have got it now. They've had it since, well, I've got a 2011 Ford and a truck with a 6.7 diesel, and it's got it. Got a 2015 Ram, it's got it. Just everything's got it now that's diesel and over 75 horsepower. This tractor does not have a diesel particulate filter though, so there is no regeneration, no high exhaust temperatures, no fuel injected into the exhaust and stuff like that to burn out. There's no filter to have to burn out. That's one nice thing about this filter. A lot of other, or about this system that Massey's using, a lot of other companies are using diesel particulate filters and diesel exhaust fluids. And you have both systems, two systems that you have maintenance. And the diesel particulate filter eventually has to be replaced after so many hours, and they're very expensive, and all that extra heat that comes along with them cannot be good for the engine or the exhaust system. So I would much rather have the diesel exhaust fluid. Yes, you have to put the fluid in ever so often, but it does not create excess heat. And heat kills engines, basically. So anyway, that's it is maybe part muffler, but mostly emissions, and that's where it is on this tractor. And I haven't had any issues with where it is. I just thought, I've never seen, except for maybe back when they were gas tractors, I've never really seen this type of exhaust system underneath the tractor. But it still has a standpipe going up on the right side of the cab rail for the exhaust to be emitted, just like every other tractor nowadays. But anyway, back to what I was doing.
The muffler's right here underneath the cab, and it's got heat shielding around it and shields on each end. But it is kind of strange to see the muffler underneath the tractor. And hopefully it don't get hot enough to set hay on fire. I hadn't had any trouble, and it doesn't seem to collect any hay around it or anything like that. So I don't think there's going to be any issues. But yeah, other than that, everything's pretty standard. There is a shield under the fuel tank. Right here's that bottle that I just put on. It's hanging down here a little bit low. You can change the length of drawbar right here by taking out these two bolts. You pull this pin out and change the length of the drawbar. There's a couple of drain plugs here for the rear end, and another one right here for the transmission. One of the hydraulic filters is right here, and I think there's another one somewhere, a bigger one, but I'm not sure exactly where it's at. It may be up above the axle somewhere. Surely that's not the only one on it. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and grease it while I'm under here. I got grease fitting right here on that drive line right there that I didn't know was there. And I've already greased that one the other day, and the axle pivot on the front. But just checking it over a little bit, and don't see any leaks or anything, so that's good. And getting ready to let it down off this lift as soon as I grease it. Alright, so the oil goes in right here beside the oil filter on the right side of the engine. And we got an oil dispenser right here. We're gonna put the shop oil in it. Didn't buy any Massey Ferguson oil. We've been using this oil from Hutchins Petroleum for years. Never had any issues with it or engines just running in. So I don't know how much it holds. So it's gonna be a trial and error thing. I'll put about 5 quarts in it and then I'll pull a dipstick and check it. I feel like it'll hold a whole lot more than 5 quarts, but we'll see. It ain't even hardly touching the stick yet. We'll put 7 quarts in it, check it again. Still not touching the stick. Okay. We'll go to 10 quarts. There's 8. 9. Let's stop at 9 and let's see what we got. Still not touching stick. Alright, so we'll go 10. And 11. Now I know I put the drain plugs in, so it ain't coming out the bottom. Now we're starting to touch the stick now, right in between the marks. We'll go to 12 quarts. This oil is 15W40 and it is CJ4 compliant, so it is designed for the new emissionized engines. Right there's 13 quarts, and that's going to get the engine full, but I'm going to have to probably put about another quart in to fill the filter up, I'd say. Yep, the engine is full, but once I crank the engine it'll go down. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cap it up. I'm going to crank the engine and then I'll recheck the oil level and top it off. Okay, I'm going to crank the engine and then we'll make sure the oil pressure light goes out. There, the oil pressure light come on and then it just went out immediately. So the oil pressure should be coming up to normal now and filling the filter up. I'll let it run for just a few seconds, then I'll shut it off, then I'll go back and check the oil and top it off, and that'll be it. I change the oil,
and greased it. A whole lot simpler than the T5, which I changed the hydraulic filters on the T5 and the fuel filters. But you can't get to the oil filter on the T5 without taking the fuel filters off, and that's the main reason why I changed the fuel filters on it so soon. It's a pain in the butt to service. I'll just tell you that right now. I got to do another little project while I got it here. Right now I'm running my Sirius XM radio off the FM transmitter, which means this thing's transmitting the FM signal, and then you use a radio channel to pick it up. And I'm having trouble getting that to work. I mean, it's working, but I get in places and it loses signal between each other, and it's just like trying to pick up a radio station that you can't barely pick up. And what I'm going to do is there's a place to plug in a hard line to the radio, and then there's an auxiliary port up here on this radio. So I'm going to run the wire up this pillar, and I'm going to come out up here somewhere. I'm going to cut a little hole in this, or in the root, or in the headliner, just a little bitty hole. And cause look how easy this right here comes out, really easy. And I can cut a little bitty notch right here and bring my cable through and just plug it into the front of my radio and not have the wire hanging down here. So I'm getting ready to do that, which I'm not going to film it, but that's what I want to do. And this tractor will be ready to go back to the field. It just had some updates done to it. There was a complaint I had about the steering. The steering felt really grainy in it, and it did the day that I went and test drove it. It felt that way, and I talked to the dealer about it, and he said he would see if he could do something about it. Well, he come and put a steering motor or a hydrostatic unit on the steering the other day, and well, it was beginning of this week, and he put that on. And it did fix it. It steers smooth as butter now. It did have like a notchy feel to it. It was like, as you turn the wheel, it was like notch, 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 notch. It just didn't feel right. It didn't feel good. And but this new steering motor on it fixed the problem. It did look to be an updated steering unit because it was made different. But it's working great. And he tested the DEF system to see if it was using too much DEF. He couldn't really determine if it was by the test that he did, but they didn't seem to think that it was using too much DEF. But he told me I needed to like keep an accurate record of how much fuel and how much DEF that I'm using, because the gauge could be off in the tank, and it could just be reading that I have less DEF in the tank than I actually do. So that's what I gotta start keeping an accurate record of how much DEF I put in and how much fuel I put in. He said it's supposed to take 10%. So if it takes 20 gallons of fuel, it's supposed to take 2 gallons of DEF. So 10% of whatever fuel it uses. So and he thinks that's about what it's using by my description, but I don't know. It seems like when you work it hard, it's using more than that, or the gauge is wrong, and it's probably the gauge is wrong. And if it is the gauge that's wrong, I'm sure he'll figure out some way to adjust it, or maybe they just need to replace the gauge or whatever. So he worked on that. He recalibrated the lift, the 3-point hitch lift for me, because you had to move it a long ways sometimes, and then all of a sudden the lift arms would move about 2 or 3 inches, and then you'd move it a long ways and they'd move 2 or 3 inches. So they recalibrated that, and that seemed to fix that problem. Not that it was a major problem. The only time it really bugged you was when you was trying to hook up to something and you needed to move it up just an inch, and you'd slide this thing back you'd be sliding it back a little bit, and it wouldn't move, and you'd slide a little bit more, and all of a sudden the lift arms would go, nyeh. It'd move about 2 or 3 inches, and it'd go past where you wanted it. But I think he got that problem solved. And what they did when they was working on the DEF, they told him to update the engine software. So he went in there. He had an old computer with the AGCO program on it. He come in here to update the software. He hooked it to the tractor. He started his download, and the fan in his computer had quit, and he didn't know it, and it overheated. The computer overheated, his computer, and it shut itself off right in the middle of downloading new software into the ECU on this tractor, and it basically erased the memory in the computer on the tractor. And it was after 5 o'clock, and he finally got his computer going again, and he was blowing air in his computer with a air nozzle, trying to keep it cool. And he got it downloaded and got the tractor where it would run, because before, when it happened, the tractor wouldn't run no more. It lost its whole memory. And he got the tractor where it would run, but it was in like a service mode, and it had 30 minutes that it would run at full power, and then after that 30 minutes, it was going to go back to 1800 RPMs and no more. And that was a 30 minutes total time, not after every key cycle. That was after you run the tractor 30 minutes, it was shutting itself back to 1800 RPM, and that was it until the tractor got what it needed. Was it lost its connection with there's 2 computers on this tractor. There's one up here in the cab, and there's one out there on the engine, and the one on the engine lost its memory, and it didn't know how to communicate with the one in the cab anymore, and it has to be a PIN number put into it that caused it to be able to talk to the computer in the cab. And it had lost its PIN number, and he had to get the PIN number from Massey Ferguson or AGCO, and they were already closed, and they couldn't help him with the PIN number that day. So he ended up having to leave the tractor in a non-usable state, basically, and come back. He came back. He didn't come back the next day. It was the day after, I believe, and he come back, and he got a new computer. He had got the PIN number from AGCO, and he come back and he put the PIN number in, and he got the computers to link back together, and it fixed the problem where it would only run 30 minutes. So that was kind of a interesting deal. But anyway, he got it going again, and I swear I think the tractor's got a little bit more power than it used to. I wouldn't swear to it, but I think it'll pull this hill over here a little bit faster. I got a hill that I always go up and kind of test how fast it'll go up the hill, and I remember how the miles per hour it'll go up the hill, and compare it to later on, like after engine break in or stuff like that. And I believe it'll go up at about 1.5 miles faster than it was before. So I don't know what the difference is in the programming. It must be a little bit different programming. And hopefully it'll help it not use as much DEF, but I don't know that for sure. So we'll see. Anyway, that's going to be the end of this video. And hope you enjoyed it. And we'll talk to y'all later.